welcome back to another episode of the Underdog podcast. Today we have a Behind the Business. We got a lot of exciting stuff going on right now. A lot of stuff that we've kind of been holding back a little bit. But now it is upon us. So today we officially started, I don't even want to call it a partnership. What would you call it?
No, it's funny you say that because I was even doing the green light pitch. I had partnership and I have it in quotes because I'm like, that's not really the right terminology. It doesn't seem fitting.
Welcoming?
Yeah. I mean, it's more than just your typical influencer partnership that, you see get labeled. They're coming on at the executive level.
Yeah, I would call it a welcoming of Lee Asher as co-founder and chief marketing officer of Underdog. We have our launch post that we put out there today. So feel free to check that out on all of our social media platforms. That kind of lays it out a little bit more, but we're going to go a little bit more in depth in terms of the preparation of this. Our trip out to Oregon, which was super fun. That was really cool to see his sanctuary out there. But Lee is a very, I would say, inspirational individual in terms of what he's been able to build. Very correlative to an underdog story overall. His background from his childhood, even up to how he started the Asher House, is really an underdog story in itself. But needless to say, he's rescued over 1,000 animals. He's got just under 300 acres out in Oregon, sanctuary where he brings these animals and basically gets them prepared for a hopeful rehoming and adoption of these animals. And, this is a really great opportunity for the brand overall in terms of the social impact that we can have, our awareness nationwide and even beyond that moving forward. But this is really a step in the right direction for what we're trying to do, because we've always talked about it, but we're more than just a product. The product is a vessel for our overarching brand mission, which is the underdog. Like, we want to empower underdogs. We want to empower individuals to be more than what they think they're capable of. Because I think that even our story overall, like, we've already done more than I think what we thought we could.
Yeah. Especially in the last number of months, like really since 2025, I'd say is when it like really shifted to, wow, like look what we've been able to do. Look where this is heading now. The trajectory that we're on, I'd say, was like the new year was kind of that tipping point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, I mean, it's a super exciting opportunity for us, for the brand, and for everybody that's involved right now and everybody that's going to be involved, because I have a feeling our team's going to expand pretty quickly in the coming months and just in 2025 overall. But the cool thing about this that we're doing is the social impact initiative that is really behind it. So obviously he's built a community on second chances of rescuing animals and putting them up for adoption and basically giving these animals a new life, which is essentially kind of like, it's like a rebirth, right? It's the whole spirit of the underdog behind it. And we're going to be donating cans every month to shelter workers, to healthcare workers, first responders, military personnel. Obviously we're going to start small and expand bigger to have a bigger impact, but it's a way for us to give back to the communities that are overlooked and are the underdogs and don't get the recognition or appreciation that they ultimately deserve, because those are the kinds of people that really make the world go round and have the biggest impact on not just society, but shelter workers in this case is they're basically dedicating their lives to animals and giving them a better life. So it really is a pretty cool thing that we're about to trek on right now. Obviously, I think we're going to dive into more of the details of some ideas and stuff like that we have. But let's start with really where this began, which the conversation, I guess, really started, what was that, February?
Maybe the very end of January, into February, I want to say, though, yeah.
Yep. So early February is when this whole process really began, which really it started long before that. We've been talking and working with Cliff Morgan for, I would say, just under a year now, just having real, casual conversation about business. And Cliff is the founder of G Fuel. He's since retired, but an expert in the beverage space. And, he himself, he saw some big opportunity with what we have going on right now. And, he even said that he wants to have a bigger impact away from just product and direct to consumer. Like he wants to have an impact on a community
Something
or
to leave behind. Yeah.
exactly. So a bigger impact. So he saw the opportunity here and we started the conversation with Lee, in February, as we said, and it's really been a process of preparation, since then, in terms of figuring out, okay, how much product do we need to have on hand for when we do launch, and that has been quite the process. Which, Dylan, I know we've talked about it on other episodes, but I guess try to elaborate a little bit on how we projected this, in terms of this production run that we're doing, and the thought that went into it, and I guess potentially what we have coming forward in the next few weeks with the reformulation, potentially introducing a new flavor and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it really, I guess, to give a little context to it, started right when we had the initial call with Lee. Cliff was the one. I didn't even know who Lee was prior to it, but Cliff was the one who brought the idea of, hey, this is Lee Asher. This is what he does. I think this would be a great fit for kind of a face for the brand, so to speak. And yeah, it was once we met with him and we're like, okay, like this is something that is going to come to fruition. He was all in, like we were super excited. And then it was like, okay, well, now we need to begin fundraising or continue fundraising. And we need to get ready for another production run, because what we had on hand from the biggest run we had done to date in December, which was 12,000 gallons, was not merely enough. That was about 10,000 cases. 9,400 is what we ended up yielding, but not nearly enough for what we need for a launch of this size. And, we had never done anything like this. So we were asking Cliff, okay, like, Cliff, you've done numerous kind of social media influencer related launches like this, where you announce partnership, they have X amount of followers. Here's what you can expect for orders through your website. And I mean, even just doing our own basic research, we kind of see that 1% to 3% conversion rate. And for someone with Lee who has 10 million followers across all his platforms, granted, yes, some of those are, people follow him on multiple platforms, but even just take his Facebook, for example, with 7.2 million individuals. Needless to say, if we use the $10 million number or 10 million follower number, like 1% to 3% conversion, we're looking at 100,000 to 300,000 orders, which is hard to process. Like looking at that, that's a daunting number. It's exciting and super exciting, in terms of revenue and what we can do, but that's daunting in terms of, okay, we need the product in order to supply that.
And I think the other piece of that too, before you go on, is like the last thing we want to do is come up short on inventory for a couple of reasons. One, for missed opportunity on revenue side of things, but the other piece is like we'll have a bigger impact on donating cans and all that sort of things if we can receive and fulfill orders. You know what I mean? So I think that was the other piece to the puzzle.
Absolutely. And we had said, this is an opportunity of a lifetime, once in a lifetime opportunity. And you only get one chance to launch. You only have one launch day, and you need to hit it out of the park. We need to. So we needed to do everything we could to make sure it's success. So as soon as we got off the call with Lee, it was, holy shit, we just finished producing. Now we need to produce again at, even a larger volume. So we're starting with 48,000 gallons, which will yield about 42,000 cases. And in perspective, that's only about 0.5% conversion.
Yeah.
So, we're prepared to produce down the line. We don't know how fast this could go. It could be the span of a few weeks. It could be over the course of the next several months. We're already prepared to hopefully produce again in July with a fourth flavor. Like you said, that was kind of the next piece of it, is the reformulation, making these flavors. Now we have essentially 2 years worth of data. We want to continue to improve the product, not just from a health conscious or performance side of things, but also a flavor. Like at the end of the day, when we're giving out samples in Hannafords, people are judging it based on flavor, not performance and whatnot. So that process immediately started as well. So it was just a number of things coming fast. But yeah, we began preparing for 4 times our largest run to date, and that was kind of is it enough? we don't know yet. In terms of what some of these brands are doing for single productions, yeah, it's right in the sweet spot. We're going to get a real feel in the first week here of how fast, we'll go through that, and we'll be able to forecast more accurately moving forward. But even, talking to Cliff, someone who's done this before, it's hard to predict. It's different every time. It depends on the product, depends on the individual, depends on their platforms. So there's a lot of moving factors, especially with how new or how young we were compared to what we will be when we launch with someone with this kind of influence. So it makes it difficult. But yeah, we did the best to balance having enough, but also making it feasible in order to fund it. And that is also a difficulty.
Yeah.
Trying to raise that amount of money for that big of an increase in run size in our position is difficult to do. And we had a tight timeline. It was like, okay,
timeline is crazy.
How fast can we turn this around? And it was like, well, we need to produce as soon as possible. Well, okay, what's hindering you? Well, we need the money in order to pay for it. So it's kind of like that cyclical effect of raising money in order to produce
growth.
Yeah.
Just, growth.
Yeah.
Every growth opportunity that comes, you run the risk of one, it not being as big of a success as you thought, but if you don't do it, it's a missed opportunity for growth to get you to the next level. So I think, that was one thing that was always on our mind. And, the other thing too is like we had to work backwards in a lot of areas in the sense of, we went away this past year from a 3PL to our own fulfillment in our warehouse. And then we were like, well, we're going to have a significant reach here with millions of people and potentially hundreds of thousands of orders. And, we're scratching our heads like there's no way that Dylan and myself can fulfill, thousands of orders in a timely fashion. So, we ended up going back to a 3PL to warehouse and fulfill our online orders. And, that just makes it a more efficient and seamless process for ourselves so we can focus on other areas, whether it's, marketing initiatives, we can focus on the retail side of things, more strategy when it comes to this opportunity with Lee, whether it's working more closely with shelter workers or, going to events that are about these sorts of things and bring more awareness to the campaign that we have. So there's definitely a lot of things that have gone into this. But, I can't believe how fast it went from when this first started in February. You know what I mean? Like that seems like so long ago, but in reality, it was like yesterday almost.
Yeah, it feels like it. There's days where, it's kind of like the days are long, but the weeks are short kind of thing. Like there's days that seem to drag on. It's like, okay, we're waiting for, whatever, the contract from the lawyers. And it's like, okay, this has been dragging on. And then now we look back and we're here and we're like, holy shit, like look what all just happened. Like
I know.
From the partnerships with Lee and Cliff and bringing them aboard and having them part of the team to scheduling a production run to getting out to Oregon to do content. And, it goes by in a real hurry.
Yeah. And I think that was a pretty highly anticipated trip for us was getting out to Oregon and actually, spending the day with Lee, with Cliff, with Lee's team, and getting all the content for when we do launch today. And that was a crazy week. Overall, so let's run through that real quick because let's see, so that was a Monday morning. We left Maine right after your first class that you had on Monday morning, probably like 10:45, 11 o'clock. Went to the airport, Logan Airport in Boston, and we had a flight at like 2-ish, 2:30,
just before 2,
something like that. And Oregon is not close. It is a 6-hour flight one way. And I'll start with the trip from an overall viewpoint, and then we can go into the day itself. But basically, we came back Tuesday night on a red eye back Wednesday morning, which was just a crazy trip. I mean, 12 hours of flight time in the span of less than 36 hours, something like that. Yeah, so that was crazy. But anyways, the day itself, we basically got in Monday night around 10:30 to the hotel out there in Oregon, and we got to the sanctuary in Salem the following day on Tuesday at 11 a.m. and that's when things really kicked off. And I did not expect that many dogs. I mean, I knew he had a lot of dogs, and they even warned us, like, hey, you're going to be overwhelmed, like, when you first get there. Not that we were overwhelmed or anything, but I was just, like, blown away. I've never seen that many dogs. It was like it was like a freaking pack of wolves, basically, you know?
Yeah, it was crazy.
But it was crazy. I mean, they're coming up the hill. Like, we get there, we park our car, we get out, and Lee had just finished a pack walk, he calls it, where he walks all the dogs. And mind you, not all the dogs are out there because some of them are, you know, either they can't do that sort of activity or they have some medical things that they have to tend to. But they all start running up the hill, and it's just like greeting after greeting after greeting after greeting. We're there. Our photographer had a white shirt on. And
so did Lee.
Yeah, Lee did too. Yeah, but first thing I just saw, I remember this vividly, is that Nick was starting to get shots of the dogs and everything. First dog that comes over jumps right out of his chest. He's got 2 paw prints on his shirt. I was dying laughing. But yeah, and then we went right into basically the interview portion of it, which was the key point of the whole day, which is to you know, talk about Lee's story and how it crosses over to Underdog, and really about the underdog mentality, which I had the pleasure of going to one of his events in Boston a couple of weeks ago, so I already kind of knew about his backstory from his childhood up until now and how he got started with the Asher House. But it was still really cool to kind of hear how he came to be today. I think there's a lot that goes into it, which, like I said, you can check out the launch video. It has a lot more in detail about his story and what it means to him to be an underdog. But I mean, what did you think? Because that was really like, I mean, I told you a little bit about the event, but for the most part, I mean, you hadn't really heard about his story until he started talking about it.
Yeah, no, I think, like you said, it's very inspirational. I can only imagine, you know, what his show was like. I mean, we're definitely going to catch another one in the fall here, but or even maybe this summer. But yeah, very inspirational, relatable. What he went through embodies what it means to be an underdog and to find success through it all. When, you know, he's really had everyone kind of turn his back on him when he was younger. Yeah. So to see what he's been able to do and what he's accomplishing and continuing to do it's amazing what he's built out there. Everything he stands for. Like, you talk about someone, you know, talk about being driven by passion. Like, he is someone who exemplifies that. Like, he is so passionate about what he does, and it's contagious. It's super cool to see. And I mean, it's obviously quite the place out there to have it. And that's something, like, you know, we got to see, like, the behind the scenes, his everyday, his house, like what it
gated. It's all gated up. Like, they got the automatic doors and stuff like that.
Like what it looks like for him, and like it's 24/7. There's no like stepping away from the rescue or taking care of these animals. It is all the time, and it takes a special person to do that. And he's a very special person with a big heart to do something like that.
Yeah, and you really can tell that, you know, when he talks about his childhood and how he felt that his only safe haven was, you know, running away to these shelters to spend time with the dogs. And you know, I forget the exact words, but he was basically saying that, you know, to the dogs, he would tell them every day that he was going to save them someday. And you know, now he's got the sanctuary where he's got thousands of animals that he's saved. That is just like an unrelenting desire to achieve something. Because nobody's ever done what he's done, to at least to my knowledge. You know, with as big of an impact that he has. I mean, the guy has 75 employees on site. And that was another thing that I was quick to realize, is that he knows everybody by name on site. And it's, you know, hey, how's it going?
Goes out of his way
to interact with
it's awesome.
What he's built and the people that are there on the same mission as him. You know what I mean? They wouldn't be working with him if they didn't have the same mindset. And that really is like thankless duty. You know, he goes out of his way to do that, when I don't want to say he doesn't have to, but where most people would just kind of brush it off their shoulders, not important. But I'm sure those people see that and they feel part of what he's doing, you know?
Absolutely. Yeah. But no, it was an awesome day.
Yeah.
It was super cool to see, like, not just the dogs too. I didn't realize how many other animals he had. Like, we got to see the pigs and the goats and the llamas and the horses, and he's got a couple cows. Like, he's got everything out there, the wolf hybrids.
Yeah.
But it was awesome. It was super cool to see.
That was so fun. Well, two things. One, the pigs. When we get into the first, you're greeted by this little piglet thing and its own little setter there. You're like, oh, it's a cute little thing. And then you go around the corner, and you couldn't see anything when you first went into the fenced in area. And what did Lee say to you?
He's like, oh, crouch down and call him out. Like,
Sal,
he said,
Sal.
yeah, Sal was his name. Yeah, here, Sal.
We had no idea what was coming.
What's going to come around this corner? 500-pound pig.
That thing was massive. I couldn't believe it when you showed me the video of when I was like patting the pig. I was petting it, and I felt it too. Like it was thick.
Yeah.
And I was basically like, if this thing rolls over, like my leg is toast. My leg is gonna snap in half. But that was crazy. And then the other thing was the wolf hybrids. They're wolves.
Yeah.
That is for sure. And when we first went in there, it was like, I thought it was so funny when Cliff was standing there and he's like taking videos and stuff, and all of a sudden it starts getting closer and closer, and Cliff's like backing away a little bit. And Lee's like, what was the first thing that I told you? Like, don't show fear.
Yeah.
And he's like, I'm not showing fear. And Lee was like, you're literally walking away from it.
He's also wicked funny too. Lee has a great sense of humor.
He does. Yeah.
He's wicked funny.
Yeah.
That was funny.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, literally to go from, just to put this into perspective of how big like 300 acres is, or however it's a high 200 acre property is, like you have to drive your vehicle to wherever the next destination is. Like to go from the pigs to the wolf hybrids, like you got to drive your car, or to go back to the main house, like you got to drive. Like, and it's not like a hop in your car and like boom, you're there. It's like a good few minutes to get to the other side, which it was really, and I think we got to see that in the drone footage too. Like when you put the drone up in the sky and we saw the video after, we were like, holy, like that is a lot. But yeah, and it really is, even down to his core, like the house that he lives in, like the animals are in there with him. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, that's what I mean. Like it is their sanctuary.
Yeah.
And he does everything he can to support them. I mean, look at the animals. They live, these are dogs that are in a kill shelter, and now they live the life. They swim, they run, they play with other dogs, they get fed is probably the biggest thing. Like they have a home there.
Yeah.
They're taken care of, and he sets them up for success. Like
very regimented too. Like each dog has their own bowl with their name on it. Like they have their meds that they need, the how much food and what kind of food they need. And it's a lot more that goes, just like anything though. It's just like business. Like, we talked about it plenty of times where you see the can and it's like, oh, it can't be that difficult. But when you really dive into what it takes to get it to that point, is like, it's crazy. And it's the same thing with that. But yeah, so we're super excited. We're going to be sharing more over the coming weeks in terms of some things that we have going on. And obviously, like, we want to turn this into a nationwide or even global impact, and not just help Underdog, but help the Asher House become even bigger and have a bigger impact on that side of things. Because I myself, like, I'm a big dog person too. Like, I got two dogs.